Bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Millie's talking about, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in.
That's right.
Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Millie, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him.
Wow.
We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time,
she'd send
Private
it.
email.
No, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert.
Please print.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying because we were talking about it, and he said he wanted to attack Iran and what. These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify
figure out
it. See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is classified.
Now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. Look, here and I have. And you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
And there it is. If there was any doubt as to Trump's legal exposure in the stolen classified documents case, this should put that to rest. That was an audio recording obtained by CNN that proves unquestionably that Trump knew that the documents he took from the White House were still classified. He admits in this recording, quote, "If I was president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't." Meaning that while he claims in public that he declassified everything, or that he had the power to declassify everything with no questions asked, both of which were false statements, by the way, that those excuses are ultimately moot because the fact is that he knew those documents remained classified and yet he retained them anyway. So if you wanted unequivocal proof that Trump knowingly broke the law, this is it. And it really does go to show how screwed Trump is in this case that the biggest piece of evidence against him is his own quote. I mean, man, here we are looking for some evidence that Trump knew he'd unlawfully retain classified documents, and this guy is so ham-handed, so clumsy, that he got himself recorded showing classified documents to people and admitting that they were classified. With defendants like this, who even needs prosecutors? And of course, it doesn't exactly help that the other star witness against Trump is his own lawyer. Remember, Trump attorney Evan Corcoran testified that Trump knowingly misled him about the location of the documents that were requested by law enforcement, which is now being leveraged by Jack Smith. And the only reason that Jack Smith has these notes and testimony is because a federal judge ruled that attorney-client privilege did not apply to their interactions because of the crime-fraud exception, which is a provision that allows prosecutors to work around attorney-client privilege if it becomes clear that a crime was being committed. So right there, we already have evidence of a crime thanks to Trump's own lawyer. And of course, that's to say nothing of the facts surrounding this case that we've known for months, like the fact that Donald Trump stole these classified documents from the White House, their return was requested, Trump ignored those requests from the National Archives. They issued a subpoena, Trump defied it, Trump had his lawyer issue a false attestation claiming that the documents had been returned when they hadn't, and ultimately, a federal magistrate judge found grounds to issue a search warrant, which, when executed by the FBI, turned up exactly what was believed to be missing. We know about Trump having boxes moved, we know about dress rehearsals preparing for the FBI's arrival, we know about Trump admitting that he was in possession of still classified documents, and then sharing the contents of those classified documents with unauthorized personnel, all of which is to say, not a day has gone by where this case hasn't gotten more difficult for Donald Trump, which is probably why he's out there on the campaign trail concocting imaginary laws as a new defense. Here he is in his most recent rally.
In other words, whatever documents the president decides to take with him, he has the absolute right to take them. He has the absolute right to keep them, or he can give them back to NARA if he wants. He talks to them like we were doing, and he can do that if he wants. That's the law, and it couldn't be more clear.
Notice how he pivots away from "I declassified everything" to "yeah, no, the Presidential Records Act totally gives you carte blanche to take whatever you want." If the goalposts move any further, they would be off the field and into the parking lot. Now, this should go without saying, but no, despite Trump's insistence on NARA and the Presidential Records Act, what he is claiming here is absolutely not the law. It is actually the polar opposite of the law. So that we're clear, there is no law that gives you permission to take still classified documents home with you after your presidential term is over. None whatsoever. In fact, not only does the Presidential Records Act not give you carte blanche to pilfer classified documents for your home collection, it does the opposite. The Presidential Records Act was passed in response to Nixon seeking to destroy records after his presidential term was over. It clarified that presidential records belong to the federal government, not the president personally, and therefore should be preserved. And so why in the world would Trump invoke the act that expressly prevented him from taking these documents as if it gave him permission to? But going back to that initial clip, let's not ignore the fact that he's also caught showing these classified documents to unauthorized personnel. That part is caught on the recording as well. You can quite literally hear him flipping through pages as a group of people who also do not have security clearances are chuckling along. So in case he didn't already incriminate himself enough by stealing these classified documents from the White House, he also found a way to get himself caught on tape sharing the contents of those classified documents. In fact, at one point, they all joke around that if Hillary had these documents, she'd be sharing them out, while Trump is doing exactly that. I mean, talk about zero self-awareness. They are mocking Hillary by suggesting that she would do the thing that Trump is doing at that very moment. If he was capable of shame, he might actually be embarrassed. All of which is to say that Trump's prospects in this case are grim. And don't just take my word for it. Here's Trump's own former Attorney General laying it out pretty clearly.
What about this chief argument that comes up for the president's allies and his legal team that this should have been handled under the Presidential Records Act, not this Espionage Act charge and other federal statutes that were used here?
Well, it started out under the Presidential Records Act and the archives trying to retrieve documents that Trump had no right to have, but it quickly became clear that what the government was really worried about were these classified and very sensitive documents. I was shocked by the degree of sensitivity of these documents and how many there were, frankly. And so the government's agenda was to get those, protect those documents and get them out, and I think it was perfectly appropriate to do that. It was the right thing to do, and I think the counts under the Espionage Act that he willfully retained those documents are solid counts. Now, I do think we have to wait and see what the defense says and what proves to be true, but I do think that even half what Andy McCarthy said, which is if even half of it is true, then he's toast. I mean, it's a very detailed indictment, and it's very, very damning.
So yeah, when even the guy who misrepresented the entire Mueller report to protect you thinks that this is an open and shut case, that doesn't exactly bode too well for Donald Trump. So while we're practically assured to hear Trump roll out a whole new raft of excuses and defenses and whataboutisms at his rallies and interviews and TV hits, just remember that behind all of his PR is a recording of the man himself confessing to his crimes, proving yet again that Donald Trump's own worst enemy, per usual, is Donald Trump. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.